Oh, that's so good.
All right, welcome back to the kitchen. We have a project today that has been on my list for probably 2 years. And I just got all in my head about it. I finally just decided, Carter, just get out of your own way and can it up. We are going to do enchilada sauce today, and I am using the recipe from this Ball canning book. It is on page 294, enchilada sauce. So my issue was that I was speaking with a Mexican gentleman as I was working on originally trying to find an enchilada sauce to can. And he looked at this recipe and he just laughed and he said, there are no tomatoes in enchilada sauce. And I thought, well, gosh, I can't can something that is not authentic because I want it to be authentic, right? Well, you know, yes and no. There is authentic Mexican and then there is authentic Tex-Mex. And it's really, I enjoy the Tex-Mex flavors. So I went to the store and I looked at the back of the jars of the enchilada sauce that I always buy, and they all had tomatoes in them. And I thought, you know, Carter, just get out of your own way and can the darn enchilada sauce. So that's what we're gonna do today. And I'm very excited to bring you along for it. So welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter and I'm so glad you're here today. Okay, so one other thing came up that I'm gonna confess to you. I could probably get away with not confessing it, but I'm gonna confess it anyway because, you know, we just gotta keep it real, right? So when my new fridge came and I was changing around all my freezers and trying to get things organized, I found these, and I found these, and then just as I thought I was done, I found these. So I'm still honestly not sure how I missed so many giant bags of tomatoes, but you know, I did. So there it is. So this recipe calls for 6 cups of canned diced tomatoes. Rather than going ahead and canning these, I just took them out of the freezer, peeled them, put them in here, and everything's gonna go in a blender anyway. So the whole dicing part just is kind of irrelevant. It's very irrelevant, quite frankly. So what I have in tomatoes is 1.5 times the amount of the original recipe. So I'm going to 1.5 times everything, and instead of 8 1-pint jars, I'm gonna make 12, which means I'm gonna do a couple different canner loads, but I'm gonna take care of all the tomatoes. Actually, I had these in my pantry from quite some time ago when I thought I had found a recipe I wanted to can, but I actually made it for dinner and I just didn't like it so much. So it says New Mexico peppers, dried New Mexico peppers is what it calls for. This is what I found in my store. I don't know if Hatch chilies are the right ones, the proper ones, the authentic ones or not. They are mild. That's what I'm gonna use. I have a little bit of heat. Well, I have a lot of heat in my chili powder. So that is where my heat's gonna come from. I don't want too much in an enchilada sauce, but I do wanna know that there are peppers in there. So it calls for 6 cups, as I said, of diced tomatoes. This is an 8-cup measure and I'm well over the last mark. So I have 9-ish cups in there. It calls for 12 dried New Mexico chilies. So I have 18 here. It calls for, I should look at the recipe. Let me see. It calls for 4 garlic cloves, so I have 6. It calls for 5 cups of coarsely chopped onions, so I have 7.5 cups of onions. And then we have a few other things that go in. We have brown sugar, we have chili powder, cumin, salt. That's about it. So anyway, I hope that this is going to be quick and easy, and I hope that this is going to stop my going to the store to purchase enchilada sauce. I'll put up a picture from Sprouts of 3 of the brands that are available at my Sprouts that I would consider buying. A couple of them have some odd ingredients. So I'm going to know everything that's in here and it's all going to make sense. So as much as I like that middle brand up there, chia seeds is just feels anything but authentic to enchilada sauce, right? Whether it's American enchilada sauce or Mexican enchilada sauce. But anyway, this is what we're gonna do today. I hear that this recipe is wonderful and I have just been crazy not to have done it before. So we're doing it today. All right, first thing we're gonna start with is just roasty toasty, these little dried peppers. And then I think it's all going to be very quick after that. A lot of it is going to be done in a blender of all things. All right, so let's move over to the stove. I'm going to get my pan screaming hot. We're going to toast these chilies just 5 or 10 seconds on the side, just until they're supposed to puff up, blister just a little bit. It says don't let them burn or they'll turn bitter. So I'm going to keep a quick eye on that, and then we're going to get rid of the stems and the seeds and let's get on with the recipe. All right, we're just starting to puff up just a minute. It literally only took 10 seconds. So I'll give them 5 to 10 seconds on this side, and then we'll put them over here in the bowl and get the next batch going. See these start to puff up just a little bit here. That's what we're looking for. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the heat way down on this pan so we can use the same pan for the onions. I really want that, actually I'm going to turn it off for a second, let it cool off completely. All right, so while the peppers are cooling down enough that I can touch them and get rid of the seeds and the stems, I'm going to get the onions and garlic going. We're just going to caramelize these just a bit. Okay, I'll get the garlic in first. I think I can turn this temperature back on. Drop the onions in there before that garlic starts getting too brown. So now remember, this is really a rough chop of the onions because we're going to put everything in the blender. All right, cover that, let it get translucent, and then we'll take the lid off and let it caramelize up just a bit. Ow, it's hot, hot, hot. Okay, while the onions are breaking down, whew, the smell of these is awesome, but strong. Break them, get the seeds out, stems. I'm actually going to have to tear into these a bit. And then it says to tear them into bits, put them in a bowl, and I'm going to put some hot boiling water over those. I regret using my hands on these later, but they are supposed to be mild chilies, so we'll see. If I can pull the stem and seeds out all at once. Get those ribs perfect. Can't tell you how nice it'll be to have some of this on the shelf. Not have to run out to the grocery store and pay crazy prices. I don't know if you noticed the prices in that little picture I put up from Sprouts, but they were like between $5 and $7 or $8 for a jar of enchilada sauce. I don't know. Seems pretty crazy to me. So I filmed last week, earlier this week, I can't remember, a kind of inventory, I don't know, inventory light, really kind of a taking stock of what was in the canning pantry and what I really wanted to make sure I added this year. And enchilada sauce was a big one, and it was just a big old glaring hole for me. And I would like to do some kind of a curry sauce, a couple of other things that just kind of, you know, the flavor part that makes the meal that I'm still buying these things at the grocery store, or I'm starting from scratch each time, like with a curry sauce. And I just really I don't need to do that if I'm capable of canning it and keeping it on the shelf and knowing exactly what's in it. I'm gonna check on these onions, give them a stir. All right, they are doing fine. I'll get back to this. Ooh, missed a bunch of seeds in that one. All right, someone tell me if I'm going to regret sticking my hands in these chilies and pulling out the seeds. It is possible, but I feel no burning, so we'll see. As I said, the recipe normally makes 8 pints. It would just be 12 of these chilies. I'm using 18. This seems like an awful lot of chilies, because it is, because I'm making an awful lot of jars. So David is very excited about this. He loves enchiladas. So it's one of my favorite ways to use the home canned chicken and home canned beef as well, both ground beef and regular stew meat beef. Some chicken and cheese enchiladas or beef enchiladas. Oh, so good. So quick and easy. I also do an enchilada bake. That is, it's not, you know, enchiladas aren't hard to make. They're not terribly time consuming, but there is some stand over the counter and do some work, stand over the stove and do some work. I can do baked casserole, like, instead of enchiladas, so I don't have to deal with rolling everything and dipping everything and all that. That is fast and easy, and then just pop it in the oven and dinner's done in, you know, 20 minutes. Enchilada soup, I like to add enchilada sauce to enchilada soup if I'm making that from scratch. All right, so here's my big bowl of peppers. I'm going to add 3 cups of hot boiling water. It would be 2 cups if I were just making a single batch. So I'm going to add boiling water, and we're going to let those soak. Let me see for how long. All right, so we're going to let these chilies sit in the hot water, soften up. Oh, it's just beautiful. For 20 minutes. And then we're going to drain those, reserving some of the liquid. So I'm going to get everything cleaned up because I have pepper seeds and crumbs and everything everywhere. And then we'll be back and keep moving on this. So the instructions say, as soon as the onions are browned, to go ahead and add the tomatoes and the peppers and the reserved liquid and all of the seasonings to the pan. But we're not going to fit in that pan. I'm eventually going to cook the sauce down in this pan, but this needs to be the sauce that or the pan that I dump the blended sauce into. So, as I said, we're going to do this a little bit differently than they have. But if you have two super large pans, feel free to follow directions. All right, this is a very big container of tomatoes. I'm going to see. All right, don't let me forget those onions back there. All right, I'm going to get these tomatoes in here and we're going to start blending this. So I have a variety of tomatoes in here. Two of them were big slicing, 2 packages were big slicing tomatoes. One is a variety that had green shoulders and a purple bottom. And then the other bag was all red tomatoes. And then I had that third bag was Roma tomatoes. I have drained as much of the liquid as I can. I'm going to start with that and see how we do on the blender. I will turn the volume down on the blender for you, so don't feel like you're about to get hit with some crazy noise. All right, so I'm really not seeing much in the way of seeds left. I know some folks might want to put this through a tomato mill, and that would be absolutely fine. I am not going to worry about that. Let me show you. You can see the inside of this. It kind of looks like tomato sauce, tomato soup texture, and I am just a-okay with that. So we'll see how the peppers, when I blend those, we'll see how those turn out. If those give me any grief in, in terms of too many chunks or whatever that I don't want in my sauce, then I'll probably just put it through a sieve rather than pull out that tomato strainer, which in my hands is a messy proposition. All right, so I'm gonna get this into the stainless pot, stir the onions. Okay, those are still working. I'm going to get this next batch of tomatoes in here, and I'm going to go ahead and add all of the seasonings and the brown sugar so that that gets fully incorporated as well. Let's get that in here. So it calls for 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. I don't have brown sugar. So if you don't have brown sugar, it's white sugar and molasses mixed together. So because I'm doing 1.5 times, I'm using roughly a 1/3 cup or so. And this is actually I'm going to use a little bit more than that. This is allulose for those of you who are interested. But sugar is what I would use if I were using sugar. A little bit of molasses to turn that into brown sugar. I like molasses, so that was probably more than I technically needed. And let's make sure I get all of our seasoning quantities correct. Chili powder, the regular recipe is 2 tablespoons, so I'm going to use 3 tablespoons. I think I mentioned earlier on that my chili powder is extraordinarily hot. So I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of my crazy hot chili powder and 2 tablespoons of my medium hot, just not insane. Ancho chili powder. Oh, and it adds a beautiful brown color to it as well. All right. 2 teaspoons of salt. So I'm going to up that for my quantities. Two teaspoons of ground cumin. Again, I'll up that because I'm doing 1.5 times. And then it calls for a teaspoon of ground red pepper. And I'm really debating whether or not I want to do that because my chili powder was so intense. Let's see. All right, my onions are just about done, so let's finish getting all this blended up. I think I might go ahead and put some peppers in this one as well. Then we're going to get a nice deep rich color out of this sauce. I do want to see how these are going to blend up. All right, cross your fingers. I think it's going to look pretty good. Oh yeah, that blended up fine. Okay, here's how this sauce looks. It looks great just like that, right? All right, that's going to blend up just fine. So I'm not going to worry about straining this, but if you'd rather strain yours, feel free. Mess wherever I put it. Stick it in here. All right, let's get another batch of tomatoes in. All right, my onions are browning up nicely, so I'm going to get some of those into this round with the tomatoes. Put some more peppers in here as well. We're going to end up adding about 1.5 cups of the reserved liquid, which is a really deep, rich, reddish brown color in here. That's why I'm not bothering to add the rest of the tomato liquid. All right, let's get this blended up. Get my mess out of my way. Perfect. All right, I'm going to get the rest of the onions in here, the rest of the peppers in here, and a little bit of the liquid, and then we'll get everything mixed together, give it a taste test, and then it's going to heat thoroughly until it reduces and turns a deep, rich color. And let's see, they tell me that's going to take 25 minutes or until sauce is thick and darkens in color. partially covered to avoid splatters. Hopefully my big tall pan here is going to prevent a lot of the splatters, but we'll see. Okay, the rest of my onions are in there, and they are delicious. Let's get the peppers in, and I'm just going to add a cup of this liquid, and then as we get everything stirred up in the pot, we'll see if we need any more. I don't want to have to cook it down so long until it gets to the thickness I want, but I also want it the right color. In the book, the picture they show in the book, it looks very much like tomato sauce. That is not what I want my enchilada sauce to look like. So we'll see. All right, I'm going to add about a cup of that liquid. Okay. It's tasty. My fingers, by the way, did not regret dealing with the seeds. They weren't hot at all. So all the heat in mine right now comes from that chili sauce that is like fire. So when we taste it, we'll see if I want to go back and add any cayenne like they suggest. All right, again, that texture looks terrific to me. All right, I had to shift everything around a little bit so that I could get you in a spot where you were tall enough to see into the pot. I'm going to get this turned on, get it mixed up. Make sure I didn't miss any lumps that would give me issues in my canned sauce. So that's the texture I have coming out of the blender. If you want a really smooth sauce, you're going to want to strain it somehow. But as of now, I don't think I'm going to. Well, I could change my mind, but I think that's okay. Let's taste it and see how we're doing there. Whoa, I'm glad I didn't add any heat. That chili powder, man, it is so hot. It came from the International Farmers Market in Atlanta, and it is just, my eyes are watering at the moment. It is just fire. So I'm glad I didn't add any more of that. I am going to add some more of the liquid though, because I think this is really thick as it is, and it does need to cook down for a little bit and darken up a bit. So I'm going to go ahead, let me see. According to the directions, at 1.5 times, I should be adding 1.5 cups total. I've already added a couple. I'm sorry, I've already added a cup. So I'm just going to skip those seeds down there and add what's left. It's a beautiful sauce. I cannot believe I put this off for so long. I can get pretty stubborn sometimes. Just ask my husband. Actually, don't. He could go on and on about that. All right, I'm gonna let this, it's a little chunk of pepper or something there. You see that? I'm gonna take that out. All right, it says to leave the lid kind of half-cocked so it doesn't splatter. I hope I have enough height in here. It's not going to splatter too much. But I'll do a little bit of that, bring it up to a simmer, let it simmer for 25 minutes, and I'll keep checking back on it. Okay, it's been about half an hour. This is cooked down a bit. You can probably see the rim on the side of the pan here to see how much it's cooked down. So I think it's nice and thick. I am going to do a test run and put some of this through a fine mesh sieve just to see how it turns out in case anyone is interested. If it's easy to do, I'll do all of my jars like that. If not, my jars might go in just like this. All right, bring you over to the island and we'll get straining and then jarring this up. All right, I have got everything I need over here. I have jars heating up. I have the canner heating up because this is hot sauce. So let's see how it goes through the sieve. Don't want it to come out watery. That's the only thing I'm thinking here. A lot of solids left behind. Let's see what this looks like. A little thin, I think. Ooh, but it's tasty. I'm going to keep going on this, and we'll see how many solids I have left over. Slightly messy. Yeah. On my arm, I got it everywhere. All right, let's see how this looks from a thickness standpoint. It is a little thin, but it's a nice looking sauce. I think I'm going to keep straining it. And if it ends up too liquid, I don't think it's going to end up too liquid though, because you know you have to roll your tortillas in it. I think I'm going to keep straining it. We're going to go with that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of jars, probably do about 3 jars this round. Get those loaded and into the canner. So I'm definitely not going to get 12 jars if I'm taking out all these solids. That's okay. I think this is the way I'm going to do it. Now let's get my big scoop. Oh, right here. All right, you can see this going into the jar. See what you think of the texture. It coats the glass. I think it's just fine. I'm going to fill these to 1 inch headspace, and then we are going to process them in a pressure canner for 50 minutes, 50. 1 inch headspace. Okay, so I made a little change. When I was able to get a better vantage point to push the excess pulp through, it came out much thicker in that batch. So I retrieved the 3 jars that I had already put in the canner, dumped them all in, mixed it up really well, and now I'm actually really happy with this consistency. I don't have anything to actually, you'll see it when it comes out of the canner, but it's much more of a thicker sauce, but there's no real texture to it. So I'm very happy with that. This is what I ended up with. So that, I hope you can see that. It's not too much. I think what I'm gonna do is either freeze dry or dehydrate this and have like an enchilada powder that I can put on the shelf, which might be kind of fun. I'm not sure when I'd use it, that I wasn't making enchiladas, but we'll see. All right, so now we're gonna get all the rims wiped and get everything into the canner. This was indeed probably the messiest project I have made in a very long time. And that is saying something. But it's delicious. I'm very, very pleased with this texture. So I'm gonna have, what am I gonna have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5. Wow, okay, 6.5 pints. And I expected 12. So 2 things. One, I took out, I guess, a couple of cups worth of pulp out of this. And I may have let it cook down to get thicker longer than they wanted me to. They said about 25 minutes or until it gets thicker and the right color, and I went for thicker and the right color, but maybe 30 minutes, I don't know. All right. So, I may be really sad not to have 12 jars on the shelf, but even if I'd left the pulp in, I wouldn't have gotten 12 jars. So I'm not sure if mine just cooked down farther, faster than theirs does. All right. But it's delicious. All right, let's get some lids on. So if we like this, I'll be making a bunch more this summer, and I will do a much larger batch. Okay, so I have 6.5 pints going in. 50 minutes is what they're going to process in the electric pressure canner, and I'll be back with you when we take them out. Okay, so yesterday we made the enchilada sauce. It looks great in the jar. Looks absolutely great. I did have one oopsie in that I jostled a jar as it was coming out of the canner, and it did not seal, so it's been in the refrigerator. This is what we're going to use to make dinner. So we're going to have, I don't know, just what I call an enchilada bake. There's no recipe. I'm just throwing stuff together. So I'm going to use a can of raw pack canned chicken, and I have some Monterey Jack cheese. In the pan over here, I have a pepper from the garden. It's called a garden salsa pepper. It's kind of jalapeno-like. Hopefully not as hot because I put a lot of it in there. And I have some onion in there. So I'm just going to sweat those out for just a few minutes. And then I'm going to add the chicken to the pan, and we're going to heat that up. I have, try to use things I have. I think I have 6 of these tortillas that were in my refrigerator, and they need to get used up. So the reason we're doing a bake instead of enchiladas is because they are falling apart a bit. So I have 6 of these tortillas, 1 pan. I'm going to layer things as best I can, and then I'm going to pop it in the oven, let the cheese get all bubbly and melty, and I'm pretty excited about it. All right, so let's take a look at the enchilada sauce. I couldn't believe I jostled one coming out last night. That was a bummer. Okay, this is I hope you can see that. Let's see if I can zoom in on this for you. This is a really good thickness. You know, as you saw, I got about half what I expected to get. And there are a couple possible reasons for that, but I'm really happy with the consistency of this. So I'm going to taste this now, and we're going to see. I don't know why I'm blowing on it, it's cold. Oh, the heat comes on the back end in this one. But it's really good. I think I actually would have put more salt in there, but I think it's really, really tasty. So we're going to turn that into enchiladas tonight, and we will see what we think. All right, I'm going to turn my attention to this, and we'll put it all together and then come back for a taste test. A little salt and some smoked paprika. I'm going to fire up the pan here so I can heat up these tortillas just a little bit before I dunk them in the enchilada sauce. And I'm going to put just a little bit of enchilada sauce in here to help this hold together. So I'm really just looking to heat this through. Now that the pepper and onions have been sweated, everything in here is cooked. All right. Let's freshen up these tortillas a bit. also going to put a little bit of avocado oil spray in the bottom of this pan. My oven preheating to 350 convection. It shouldn't take very long. I'm really just looking to cook it until the cheese is bubbly. So this is warm through. And you could do beef enchiladas, pork enchiladas. I don't know if they do seafood enchiladas or not, but anyway. Chicken is kind of my usual go-to for enchiladas. Yummy. Okay. All right, I'm going to pour a little bit of the enchilada sauce on the bottom. Go ahead and take these off, turn this off. Try to get those coated a little bit. So the only thing I have on right now is the tortillas over here, so I can warm up the next layer. Ooh, hot, hot, hot. So this is going to serve 2 of us, and I imagine, unless David is super hungry, we're going to have leftovers for lunch tomorrow as well. Let's get some cheese. So this is a Monterey Jack cheese that is goat cheese. I get it from Azure Standard and we love it. All right, I'm gonna need a little bit more of this on here. I should probably be dipping these with a separate plate, but I'm not. Yikes, very toasty. Okay, last of the tortillas. Put the rest of the chicken in this layer. All right, refill with more cheese. Ow. All right. Finish the enchilada sauce on this. And I'm going to top the whole thing with cheese. All right, into the oven this goes. We'll see how long it takes. All right, I'm gonna clean up. We'll be back when that's done, give it a taste test, and I'll let you know what I think. It's been in the oven for about 10 or 12 minutes, and I think it is done. Oh, yum, it's all bubbly on the sides. Doesn't it look yummy? All right, we're gonna let it rest for just a couple of minutes and then we'll cut into it and see how it is. All right, let's cut into this and see what we have here. It looks awesome. I think I'm gonna put this back on. This pan is still hot. It's been resting for a little bit. I think I'll cut this into half. And then I think I'll go for, I don't think I can eat one of those, so we'll cut it into 3 times this way. So that'll give us 6 pieces. David will eat at least 2, maybe more. I'll eat 1. All right, let's see if I can get this out gracefully. Go. I don't have any sour cream. Some sour cream would be excellent on it. I'll get David some guacamole for his. All right, I'm going to try this, and then we'll serve dinner. I need to slip down, don't I? Still pretty steamy. Oh, that's so good. That's really good. I can't believe it took me this long to make this enchilada sauce recipe. But it did. That is really tasty. These jalapenos from the garden are really good, or the garden salsa is what it was. That was the variety. Those are really good. Oh, that is really tasty. Great heat, great smokiness, a little bit of sweetness. I think it's great. So I'm definitely gonna do at least 1 more batch of these, and what I'll probably do next time, I think I don't know if I'll strain it the same way. I may actually break out the tomato mill, but we'll see. But I love this thickness. I'm glad I didn't put the extra pulp in there. That pulp is now in the freeze dryer, so I'm gonna turn that into a powdered seasoning, and we will figure out how to use that. But I don't think I'd do it any other way. I don't want it any less thick. I don't want it any thicker. Otherwise it wouldn't pour and soak into the tortilla. So I think I'm gonna do it exactly the same way next time, maybe using the food mill instead of the strainer. I don't know, we'll have to see what I feel like cleaning it up at that point. But this is terrific. Next time I will make a double batch and expect to get 8 pints. So I did a batch and a half, and I should have gotten 12 pints and what I really got was 6.5. So those are my numbers. Your numbers may be different based on how much you cook it down, but this was terrific. So I hope you will give this one a try. Don't be stubborn like I was and hold out for one without tomato sauce, because I tell you what, I've looked everywhere and I can't find one that looks like it is safe to can. So this one is terrific. Give it a shot. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.